lot of things this case has stopped me from doing, traveling all across the world, making. So I just want to get it over with, and, you know, accept my guilty plea. I'm ready to get over it.
Anything you want to say to your fans?
Just say a prayer for me. I just need prayer. I don't need nothing else.
Boosie going to jail! Oh, God is good. I keep telling y'all, street got no God. God do not look after street. Boosie really thought he wasn't going to jail for that pistol. I knew he was going. I just was waiting.
Pulled off. And the hammer back on the gun.
And then what happened?
He fired.
Boosie might be staring down a brutal 10-year sentence in that federal gun case. And the first one to pop out laughing, Charleston White. The second Boosie's name hit the blogs, Charleston jumped online acting like it was Christmas morning. He was cracking up, saying he always knew Boosie would land back in jail and bragging that he'd been waiting for this moment. He even went so far as to say he wouldn't care if Boosie never walked out again. Now, Boosie had already told fans earlier this month that he signed off on a plea deal because he was exhausted from fighting. He thought it was the smartest move, even though the case had been tossed out once before. But prosecutors came back swinging in 2024 with a fresh indictment, and suddenly Boosie was looking at more than a decade behind bars. So while Boosie is posting emotional messages about trusting God and feeling worn down, Charleston White is on live acting like it's his birthday, popping champagne and talking reckless. And in case you didn't know, Boosie's legal drama has been dragging for years, but this gun case might be the one that locks it in stone. He was first arrested for being a felon caught with a firearm, which is already a nightmare charge to beat. And at first it looked like he dodged it when the case got dismissed in 2023 and fans thought he could finally lock back into music and family life. But the feds weren't playing in 2024. They came right back with the same charge, basically saying, nice try, but we're still coming for you.
Charleston White was celebrating you taking the plea deal. I think he even said he hopes you die in jail and stuff like that.
Yeah, I heard.
The biggest thing right now was that you actually accepted a plea deal for your federal gun case.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been fighting this thing from the very, very beginning?
I've been fighting for probably 3 years now, probably.
3 years.
That's when Boosie finally caved, taking the plea deal and telling fans on X, I thought this case was over and I was going to get on with my life, but God don't make mistakes and I'm tired of fighting. This wasn't just another L. This was the moment everything Boosie had been dodging finally caught up with him. When the news dropped, fans flooded his mentions with love, but you could feel it. Boosie was crushed. This wasn't the same Boosie who used to clown online and clap back at every hater. This was a man who sounded worn out. His post carried that mix of faith and surrender, like he was trying to make peace with what's ahead. People who've been watching Boosie's journey know he's been surviving storm after storm since Baton Rouge days, slipping past cases, getting through beefs, bouncing back from health scares. But this right here, it hits different. 10 years ain't no slap on the wrist, and the weight of that reality showed in every single word he typed. Fans were lifting him up, but Charleston White? He was doing the total opposite. Live on camera, cheesing like he won the lottery. He bragged that he always knew Boosie would land here and said he was glad to see it happen. Charleston didn't stop there. He even said he hopes Boosie dies in jail, which is insane, even by his standards. But then again, this is the same man who built a whole career being hip-hop's loudest troll. The timing made it sting worse. Boosie hadn't even had a moment to process his own sentence before Charleston flipped it into a live comedy routine.
Feds picked it up.
Now, it was a state case. The feds came, picked it up. They had a ruling in the Supreme Court that went in my favor, and the case got dropped by the judge. The case got dropped. We're gonna go to trial with it from the dump, actually, but I feel like this the right move for me. You know, I trust in God, Black.
And here's the kicker. Charleston trolling everybody is nothing new, but when it comes to Boosie, it feels personal. Every single time Boosie has legal drama, Charleston pops up like clockwork, pouring gas on it. That's why fans are now asking, what's behind this hate? Because this ain't just random trolling anymore. These two got history, and that bad blood been simmering for years. This mess goes all the way back to late 2022 when Kanye West had the whole world heated after rocking that White Lives Matter shirt. Boosie didn't hold his tongue. He spoke up, saying yeah was flat out disrespecting black folks, and honestly most people were with Boosie on that one. But Charleston White? Nah, he jumped online tearing into Boosie just for daring to speak on Kanye, and that's when everything went left. Instead of just trading shots with Boosie, Charleston took it to a dark place, dragging Boosie's son Tootie Raw into the drama, and even T.I.'s son King Harris. He called them ugly, claimed they couldn't fight, and went as far as predicting they'd both end up in jail. That's when folks realized Charleston wasn't just your everyday troll. He was the type to go so low he'd weaponize kids just to break the parents. The wildest part? Booosie didn't explode like everybody expected. He shocked folks by staying calm. During an interview with Tony the Closer, he explained why. He made it clear that saying too much could land him behind bars real quick, especially once Charleston dragged kids into the mess. Booosie straight up said he wasn't about to let Charleston trick him into a trap, and that told you everything right there. Booosie wasn't scared, he just knew Charleston was baiting him, trying to push him into crossing a line that could ruin his freedom. So instead of snapping like the internet thought he would, Booosie kept it cool on the surface, even if you know deep down that cut ran deep.
He brought you up because you were attacking Kanye because of the...
Nah, that was, it's Kanye West, it just happened. Nigga been coming at me. He been coming at me, it's just, you know, I can't respond to those people, bro. Like, that's a danger to what I got going on. You can't take no risk of losing this behind, you know.
By early 2023, the tension was already past boiling. This beef leveled up big time. Charleston was still clowning T.I. over that whole paperwork party. When Boosie's son Tootie decided to jump in and clap back, he called Charleston old, messy, and even told him to go die. But Charleston being Charleston, he cranked it up 10 times nastier. He went live and spit out one of the wildest lines ever, saying, "I hope your daddy die from that diabetes. I hope they don't send the insulin 1 month." Like, who even says that? He basically wished death on Boosie just to rattle his son. And then when Tootie actually got arrested later that same month on gun charges, Charleston popped up immediately claiming the W, bragging that he was the one who tipped off the cops. He told fans he sent pictures, dropped info to the Department of Public Safety, and even said authorities had been watching Tootie because Boosie was a 6-time convicted murderer who used children to kill people. That's when it became crystal clear that this wasn't just trolling anymore, this was Charleston playing with real lives, and it didn't stop there.
Going to jail! Oh, God! Oh, God is good. I keep telling y'all, street ain't got no God. God do not look after street. Boosie really thought he wasn't going to jail for that pistol. I knew he was going. He going to jail. All that newborn baby. Boosie won't get to see that newborn baby till that baby be walking and talking. Boosie going to jail!
Not even 3 months later, Boosie himself got arrested again in San Diego right after a court hearing. Charleston couldn't wait to pounce. He hopped on IG Live talking about how this was all God's plan. He even compared Boosie to Daniel in the lion's den, twisting Boosie's pain into some twisted sermon about divine punishment. Fans couldn't even tell if Charleston was dead serious or just trolling, but either way, it came off disrespectful as hell. Months later, Boosie finally broke his silence in an interview, admitting he didn't even want Charleston to be given a platform after all the foul things he said about Tootie. And once again, Boosie made it clear it wasn't fear holding him back, it was the fact he was trying to stay free. He said it himself, plain and simple. But even though Boosie played it cool in public, everybody could see it. Charleston was living rent-free in his head. Then by early 2024, the beef spilled deeper into internet culture. Aiden Ross was supposed to host Boosie on his stream, but Boosie passed because he didn't want to deal with Charleston drama. Next thing you know, Aiden flipped the script, claiming he turned Boosie down out of loyalty to Charleston White.
I ain't really got no opinion on him because, my opinion can send me to prison. So I ain't really, I ain't really got no opinion on him, once you go to threaten people's kids, talking about you gotta lie. So, I ain't the one gonna do all that. I ain't gonna do all that, you know what I'm saying? It's just, hey, certain people you can't really express opinions on, and he one of those. You can't express how you feel because you might end up in prison, and I ain't getting tricked off the streets.
That bogus story went viral until another creator jumped in, dragging Aiden for siding with a guy who once praised Hitler and denied the Holocaust. That whole fiasco proved just how far Charleston's shadow stretched. Even young streamers were using his name like clout currency. And still, Charleston wasn't slowing down. By March, he was back online claiming Boosie had allegedly told promoters not to book him. He flipped that into another fiery rant, swearing he already reached out to the feds and was ready to get Boosie jammed up over what he called threats. And of course, he couldn't resist twisting the knife. Charleston even dragged Boosie's health back into it just to make the insults hit harder. He went live swearing he'd sick the FBI on Boosie and have him locked away for good. No proof, no receipts, just loud talk, but loud enough to stick. Boosie himself even admitted he'd been getting calls from dudes already behind bars asking him, "When you pulling up in here with us?" Picture this, Boosie already weighed down by the reality of a federal sentence, and before he even steps foot in the yard, dudes locked up are clowning him on the phone. That's insult on top of injury, and Charleston knows exactly what he's doing, stirring that narrative. And here's another angle folks are whispering about. Boosie didn't even push for a trial, he went straight for the plea. And honestly, can you blame him? Just imagine if Charleston White somehow showed up in that courtroom. You already know he would have turned the whole thing into a circus, testifying, pointing fingers, and then sprinting to the blogs the second he got outside. And it's not even far-fetched because Charleston has a well-documented history of snitching and he's never been shy about it.
For Boosie, you done got too much. You done let these niggas play you too motherfuckers. This internet dumb and bitch. Say what Lil Tootie gonna do now? What Lil Tootie say? Listen, Vlad TV. Vlad post everybody going to jail but Boosie. Somebody tag Vlad TV.
Word is, when he was just 14, he got caught up in a robbery with a group of teens. During that robbery, one of them, Antoine Doolittle, shot and unalived a man named Michael Levy. When it came time for court, Charleston testified against him. In street culture, that's the ultimate stain. Even though he was just a kid, people still drag him to this day for turning on his own crew, but Charleston doesn't dodge it. He doubles down. He's defended himself saying, "I was young, I was in court, I told the truth." That's not snitching, that's survival. That's his exact justification. The problem? Recently, footage from that old juvenile case resurfaced and the internet went crazy all over again. People were calling him out as a hypocrite, saying, "You can't preach street code one day and then brag about testifying the next." That clip got recycled everywhere to clown him. But Charleston being Charleston, he didn't backpedal. He doubled down again, proudly saying he's never lived by no street code and doesn't care who's mad. Which is wild, because in the same breath, he'll label rappers rats while smiling about being a snitch himself. By mid-2024, Charleston wasn't just clowning Boosie online, he was turning the feud into his own business model.
In jail, waiting for the FBI to send me the right collar number, because I'm finna make a report on your people. And you make the man call your name specifically. The promoter specifically says your name, Lil Boosie. He implemented you and implicated you. Finna go to jail, back to jail. You gonna be on your knees, but them knees gonna be bleeding again.
Every time Boosie's name came up, Charleston flipped it into viral clips, interviews, and rants that racked up views. And the more Boosie tried to ignore him, the louder Charleston got. He even started calling himself Boosie's shadow, bragging that as long as Boosie breathed, he'd be right there making money off his downfall. And you know Charleston couldn't resist dragging family into it again. He popped on live saying Boosie's legacy was cursed, claiming Tootie gonna end up right where his daddy at, behind them bars. Fans were disgusted because it felt less like trolling and more like he was preying on their downfall. That kind of disrespect only fueled the fire because by then, Boosie's health and freedom were already hanging by a thread. But here's where it got even crazier. Charleston went as far as taunting Boosie about cooperating with the feds. He told his followers, "Watch, Boosie gon' fold like the rest of them. He gon' turn rat if that sentence gets too heavy." That accusation shook fans because Boosie has always worn real street like a badge of honor, and Charleston was playing with the one thing rappers guard more than anything: their credibility.
I'm not a street kid. I'm not a criminal. I'm a kid who was raised to tell the truth. When my mama come in and say, "Son, what happened?" "Mama, I didn't do that." I got a paid for a lawyer. I got two lawyers, Carl Mallory and Louis Stearns. Louis Stearns became Judge Stearns, Judge Louis Stearns. But nigga, I had two paid for lawyers. My mama is a well-to-do mama. I'm just playing, I ain't playing. I'm an adolescent going through an adolescent stage of rebelliousness. I ain't no street. Hell yeah, I'm gonna tell on you. I've been telling since I was a little bitty boy.
Meanwhile, Boosie tried to show strength online, posting scriptures and saying God had his back, but you could read between the lines. Charleston's constant poking was taking a toll. Even other rappers noticed, with some calling Charleston obsessed and warning him he was crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. But Charleston, he loved it. He went on record saying he thrived off the chaos and that every time Boosie's supporters got mad, it only proved he was winning. At that point, fans started asking the real question. Was Charleston just trolling for clout, or was he on a mission to destroy Boosie's career once and for all? Because by the looks of it, this wasn't ending anytime soon. And the deeper it got, the uglier it looked for both sides. And by late 2024, it was clear Charleston had taken things too far. What started as trolling Boosie online turned into a non-stop campaign, and the backlash finally started catching up with him. Clips of Charleston wishing death on Boosie and bragging about calling the cops resurfaced all over the blogs, and this time the internet wasn't laughing. People were calling for him to be canceled outright. Even other street dudes began chiming in, saying Charleston had crossed into dangerous territory. A few voices in the industry warned that playing with a man's freedom and health wasn't content, it was asking for trouble. Rumors swirled that certain promoters stopped booking Charleston at comedy clubs because they didn't want Boosie's people showing up. Suddenly, the man who built his brand off being untouchable was looking shaky. And here's the kicker. Word started spreading that law enforcement had their eye on Charleston too. After all, he'd bragged one too many times about tipping off the feds, and insiders claimed authorities wanted to know just how much he was really involved in certain cases. Some fans even joked that Charleston snitched so much, he eventually snitched on himself. Meanwhile, Boosie stayed mostly silent, only dropping a few cryptic posts about God handling his enemies. But fans could tell the energy had shifted. For once, Charleston wasn't in full control of the narrative. His enemies were watching, his supporters were second-guessing, and the feds were allegedly circling closer than he realized. But of course, Charleston didn't fold. Instead, he doubled down, bragging that he couldn't be touched because he was a civilian, not a street dude. He taunted Boosie again, saying, "Y'all can't cancel me, y'all can't touch me. I'm here forever." But the louder he yelled, the more people started asking if this was the beginning of the end for his reign as hip-hop's biggest troll. Because one thing's for sure, when you make a living off dragging legends, mocking families, and calling the law, eventually somebody or something is going to clap back. And Charleston might finally be running out of time. So when you stack it all up, it's no wonder people are side-eyeing Boosie's move to skip trial and grab that plea deal. The last thing he wanted was to gamble with a courtroom where Charleston White might somehow pop up and turn the whole thing into his stage. This is the same man who openly brags about calling cops, setting people up, and proudly admits he testified as a teenager. So imagine the circus if he got the chance. Picture it. Charleston pointing fingers, cracking jokes at the jury, then walking outside and hopping on live screaming, "I helped put Boosie away." That's not even wild imagination. That's exactly how Charleston plays the game. He lives for moments like that. And that's why he's celebrating so loud right now. To him, this isn't just another rapper caught up in legal trouble. This is karma.
I trust in God, man. This crazy.
It's the validation for all the trolling, all the mocking, all the shots he's been firing since 2022. From dragging Tootie Raw to clowning Boosie's health to bragging about snitching, Charleston been waiting, maybe even praying, for the day Boosie would be looking at a decade in the pen. As it stands, Boosie isn't officially behind bars yet. But with that plea deal on the table, the clock is ticking. A full 10 years in prison is staring him in the face, while Charleston White is online acting like he already won the war. And the streets, they're split. Some are laughing right along with Charleston, while others are just waiting to see if the hammer really drops. But here's the part that stings the most. If Charleston is this loud while Boosie is still technically free, just imagine the chaos he'll unleash if Boosie actually gets sentenced. That circus will be louder, uglier, and messier than anything we've seen so far.